And then we come to a terribly sad indictment of our society, the so-called physique group of publications. These magazines with a homosexual viewpoint and poses are often not understood by many youngsters who take them as instruction of body development. But psychiatrists believe that prolonged exposure of even the normal male adult to this type of publication, though he may not be aware of its true nature, will nevertheless pervert. Think then of the consequences to the inexperienced youth who, in purchasing and studying this material, becomes a pawn for these misfits, these homosexuals who have a slogan that betrays the evil of the breed. Today's conquest, they say, is tomorrow's competition. For these misfits, these homosexuals, do you want your son enticed into the world of homosexuals, or your daughter lured into lesbianism? For these misfits, these homosexuals,
Marcel Proust is too funny at times. Although he was more or less a raging homosexual, he would fight pseudo-duels with anyone who claimed he was indeed gay. Which today is ironic because Proust is viewed as a literary pioneer, and his very homosexuality a badge of honor. In other words, what Proust thought was so damning during his own lifetime is viewed 100 years later as one of his virtues. As Proust once remarked when hearing some bad gossip about himself, "It is nice to know that my reputation precedes my arrival." This is a deeply pregnant line, since what we may view as our biggest vice may over time, and given the right context, be perceived as our one surviving virtue. Michel Foucault has already touched upon this rich idea in his studies on sexuality and madness in prisons. What is sexually deviant in one era becomes the standard in another. What is regarded as criminal at one epoch can in another be seen as a sign of saintliness. And finally, an act that could get you a long prison sentence in one century could in another be seen as a harmless pastime. Which leads back to this philosophical point. We simply don't know what is our best or worst quality. We simply know the varying reactions we get at different times, including our own reactions to it. And our reactions can dramatically transform over time. Indeed, what we once regarded as our best trait, the desire to please, we now view with a much more jaundiced eye. Perhaps we should remind ourselves of Nietzsche's famous quote about guilt and its claims to accuracy. It is like a dog biting a stone, utterly pointless. Proust thought ill of himself not because homosexuality is something ontologically wrong, but because he conflated a mistaken cultural view of it with truth. If we know anything about history, it is this: truth is not part of the proceedings.
For these misfits, these homosexuals,
The Supreme Court of the United States has clearly stated that obscenity is without constitutional protection. The Supreme Court has defined obscenity as material which deals with sex in a manner appealing to the prurient interest. That is, material having a tendency to excite lustful thoughts. To excite lustful thoughts. To excite lustful thoughts.